This is a real story shared by a woman, and it's so heartbreaking and eye-opening that it sticks with you. A woman had been married for 5 years. She and her husband met at work, fell in love, moved in together, and eventually got married. They had a stable life with family dinners, evenings spent together, and shared vacations. Everything seemed perfect, especially when they had a child. However, she didn't notice how often her best friend started visiting their home. At first, it was just casual dinners and conversations, but soon her friend began staying longer, helping with the child, and her husband asked for help with things more frequently. She thought it was just friendship, nothing more. One day, she came home earlier than expected and walked into the living room to find her husband and best friend sitting closely on the couch, laughing and looking very comfortable together. Being with Chase and his friends, she felt uneasy, but decided to ignore it, convincing herself it was nothing. But then strange things started happening. Her husband began staying late at work, and when she asked him where he'd been, his answers seemed less convincing. One day, she found text messages on his phone from her best friend. Whoa. Oh. She immediately knew something was wrong. Eventually, she decided to confront her husband. When she did, he didn't deny it. He confessed that he had fallen in love with her best friend, and their relationship had grown into something more. It was a devastating shock because she had trusted her best friend as a sister. The betrayal from both her husband and best friend not only shattered her marriage, but completely changed her life. She felt betrayed and alone, but eventually she realized that her happiness wasn't worth holding on to people who had betrayed her. She decided to leave her husband and cut ties with her best friend. It was a painful decision, but she knew she deserved to be surrounded by people who would genuinely appreciate her. From then on, she rebuilt her life, becoming stronger and wiser in the process. I once found myself in a situation I never imagined would happen to me. I had been in a committed relationship for a few years, everything seemed stable, and we were even talking about a future together. However, something started feeling off. Little things here and there, late nights at work. And when I asked about his day, he'd give vague answers. One evening, I had a gut feeling and decided to check his phone while he was in the shower. I didn't want to, but I couldn't ignore the strange vibe anymore. I found messages that made my heart drop. There were texts, photos, and even plans for meetings with someone I didn't know. It was clear he had been seeing someone else. I was in complete shock. The reality of it didn't hit me right away. I couldn't believe it was happening to me. My mind raced. I wanted to confront him right then, but I didn't know how to even start the conversation. I tried to gather my thoughts, but everything felt like a blur. I felt both angry and sad at the same time. Uh, he came out of the shower and I just sat there, holding the phone in my hand. He saw my expression and instantly knew something was wrong. I didn't say a word, just showed him the messages. The silence that followed was suffocating. He tried to explain, but all I could hear were excuses, each one making me feel worse. After that, I realized how awkward and painful it had all become. We couldn't even look at each other the same way. I had trusted him, and now everything felt fake. The rest of the evening was full of awkward silences, with neither of us knowing what to say next. We both knew it was over, but neither of us had the courage to end it in that moment. Finally, I left. I didn't say anything more. I just walked out, feeling more embarrassed and hurt than I had ever felt. It was a wake-up call for me, showing me how important it is to trust your instincts. That night taught me that sometimes the most awkward moments are the ones that lead to the biggest changes in your life. This was one of the most painful experiences I've ever been through. It all started like any other normal relationship. I was with a guy I loved very much. We spent a lot of time together, made future plans, and I was happy. My mom always treated him warmly as we had been together for several months. And she even said he was a good guy. One day, I came home from work a little earlier than usual. As I opened the door, I heard strange noises coming from the living room. I thought maybe my mom was on the phone or watching TV, but when I walked in, I saw something horrible. Um, my boyfriend and my mom were sitting on the couch very close to each other. At first, they'd noticed me, but it was too late. I saw their expressions, and in that moment, I understood what was going on. My mom tried to explain, but I couldn't make sense of her words. I just didn't really feel like moving forward. And, I feel like some of the hardest times I felt betrayed. And, um, my boyfriend started to justify himself, but I couldn't listen to his excuses anymore. All I felt was pain. Um, at that moment, it felt like my world was falling apart. I didn't know what to do, leave, talk, shout, or stay silent. I just walked out of the house without saying a word. Um, my mom tried to call me, but I couldn't answer. The situation was so awkward and painful that I didn't even know how to go back home and face them. It changed my relationship with both of them, and I didn't know how to deal with such a horrible betrayal. That day, I learned a lot. Um, Sometimes betrayal comes from the people closest to you, and it hurts the most. Huh. I